Next up, surprise, surprise, more components. The first one is very simple. It's a badge component, and it's typically used for displaying a count or some sort of, I guess, what do they call it, a label. And that's kind of all that you use it for. So you can mix and match it in a heading. You can put it in a button. Here's what I mean by a count, right? A number of notifications, number of, I don't know, updates on your profile or something. And that's kind of all there is to a badge. You can make one that's rounded. All that they are is a span with the class of badge and then a color. Badge secondary gives us all of these. Notice that they scale based on the element that they're inside of. So I could add a, I don't know, where should I do it? Right here maybe with our buttons. I'll add a badge right after that. So in our display 4, it's an H2. Span with the class of badge. And then I'll do badge dash, how about success maybe? And then we'll put a number in there maybe like 8. I don't know how that will look. Doesn't look great honestly, but there's our badge. So it's badge and then badge dash success or badge dash something else. Yeah, maybe we'll do new instead. That might look better. No, it doesn't. It doesn't look great. What's cool though, and where I commonly use badges is in a navbar situation if there's an alert, or in some sort of button, to display number of notifications or updates or changes. So let's do an example of that. Let's do a button here. Maybe we'll do just a primary button with a badge inside. So we'll do button, and what should our text be? Updates, and then we'll do a span with the class of badge. And then badge dash maybe light, badge, there we go. And then let's give our button the class or classes of btn and btn dash primary. Let's see how that looks. Oh, looks like I didn't put any text in my badge, of course. So updates, let's do maybe 9 updates. And there we go. There's our little badge. So we also have the ability to make one of them a pill, or any of them a pill badge. It just gives a border radius on the corners. So let's try badge dash pill on one of them. We could do it just on our big guy up top. Badge dash pill, refresh, and there we go. Okay, so that's all there is to badges. Very simple. Another component we'll take a look at now, it's relatively simple, is the button group component. It will group multiple buttons together into a group. So this is pretty common. You can use this to make nice looking selects where, a user picks one option basically in place of a radio button or a group of radio buttons. But for now, we're not worrying about how you make that work. That actually involves some JavaScript. We're simply going to take a look at the syntax. So if you have 3 buttons or 2 buttons or just more than one button and you group them, and you put that container, or you give that containing element the class of btn-group, it's going to pretty significantly alter things. So let's try an example here. I guess I'll do it under our buttons. Let's do maybe what should we do, an H3? Button groups. And then let's make 3 buttons. So button, btn, and then btn-primary. Should we do primary? Maybe we'll do some warning just to mix up the colors. So I'll just do 1 as our text. It's not very pretty, but there's 1. And then I'll duplicate this. We'll have 2 and we'll have 3. So no group yet. They're all separate buttons. Now I'm going to group them together with that class of btn group. And I'll use a div just like the docs, surround the 3 of them, btn-group, I'll save, refresh, and now they are a single group. It changes what those buttons look like, right? We don't have margin in between them. The border radius changes. They're not curved on the inside. It's just the outside edges now have that curve. So that's kind of cool. And this could expand as many times as I want. I could change the colors. I could have a danger in there. I don't know if that looks very good, but whatever. So that's button group. There is some important stuff around accessibility that you should be aware of. If you are going to use these buttons in a group to make some sort of fancy radio button or select, instead of just having 3 separate buttons, but if they're somehow associated in a way where you're only supposed to pick one, or these are different options for something, you should give the element, the containing element, role of group. It's just going to indicate to screen readers that this is a group of buttons. what else can you do? You can make toolbars, and there's a couple other examples down here. You can nest them, actually. You can make drop downs. You can change their size. Button group large, button group small. Now, these aren't, something we need to spend a ton of time on, but they're here, and that's just your brief intro. So that's button groups. The final component we'll look at in this video is the alert. So an alert is supposed to provide some sort of feedback to your user, typically, after some action or when the page loads, this was saved, or this failed to save, or you don't have permission to do that, or welcome back, or logging you out, that sort of thing. It can be used for other purposes, but that's the main goal, is to alert a user to something important, or it doesn't have to be crucial, but alert a user to something, bring their attention to some piece of information. So the way that we do this, very similar to buttons, we need a div or some element with the class of alert, that's the base class, and then the color variant, alert primary, alert secondary, just like buttons. And that's the simplest one. So let's add one in here somewhere. Maybe after button groups, we'll do another H3 alerts. And then right here, we'll do a div with the class of alert, and then alert-danger. And then inside, we can put text. We can put other elements actually inside of an alert if we wanted to. We could have buttons in here, but I'm just going to put some basic text like danger, you are about to end the world as we know it. Okay, save, refresh, and there is my alert. So that's one option. Of course, we can change these to do, success. And there we go. But what I want to show you here is that actually we can make them dismissible. Also, you can add additional content as they show you here. You can have an alert heading. So maybe we'll do that. Let's put that in right there. Alert-heading is the class. Oh no. Okay. So there's our heading, and this is what I want to show you, dismissing alerts. So we can make an alert that has this X button, and we can make it so that it actually dismisses the alert. Now that involves some JavaScript. Fortunately, we don't have to write any of it, but we do have to do something we have not yet seen. So we'll build this up one piece at a time. All that we need to do to begin with is add in our button, and this button could be anything. It could look like anything, but typically we'll use an X, and the X is not the letter X, it's a close icon, and you can just use the letter X, but what a lot of people like to do is use the entity code to make the times symbol, that X there, it's different than the actual letter X. I don't know enough about typography to explain the exact difference, but this is like 90-degree angles. I don't know, whatever. It's the button or the shape that a lot of people like to use. So we can put that inside of a button. So let's make a simple button. Put that span in there. Now you might see this here, ARIA hidden. This is saying that on screen readers, this does not need to be showing up at all because a screen reader does not know what this is. I don't actually know 100% how it handles this, but it probably just reads this out loud, which doesn't make a lot of sense to most people. So we can hide that span, and instead what we can do is add an aria-label to our button. This is what the screen reader will read out loud. All of these ARIA prefixed attributes have to do with accessibility and screen readers. So hide this on screen readers, use this as the label, close. And then the most important part, well, first, if I just refresh this, it looks pretty bad. So we can add the class of close, which comes from Bootstrap. So we'll do that. Class equals close. Now it looks better, but it's still not going to close it. So in order for that to work, we need to add this data-dismiss attribute and set it to alert. So this is just coming from Bootstrap. This is not something that we have access to, on any button that we make. This is particular to Bootstrap. And if I refresh, it does work. Right away, I'm able to dismiss. But there is another thing that we can do. We can actually add onto this alert alert-dismissible fade and show classes. And that's going to move that X up to the top right corner, and it adds a nice little fade out instead of it just immediately being removed. So this is a reasonably large amount of classes compared to what we've seen, but it's just from the docs. And we're still actually missing this role equals alert, which is another important thing for accessibility. It indicates to a screen reader that this is important information. Often these alerts will show up on the page after the page has loaded. You'll do something and then an alert appears. And if we're looking at it, it's easy to see that there's new stuff on the screen, but most screen readers are not going to read out content that changes or that just shows up unless we add on this role of alert. All right. So again, you can copy and paste from the docs at any point if you ever are confused or you're not sure how these alerts work or how any of these other things work. Just remember data-dismiss equals alert, and you don't even need to remember that. I don't know why I just said just remember. You don't have to remember it. You can access this on the docs whenever you need to. When we click that X, it dismisses the current alert that it's nested inside of. So it's a button inside of this div with the class of alerts. Lastly, if we don't have JavaScript, the bootstrap JavaScript files down at the bottom, then this is not going to work at all. We still get the alert, but it doesn't dismiss anymore. So that is all thanks to the bootstrap JavaScript file and then these two other dependencies. Don't worry about that for now. So just keep that in mind. If you didn't include those scripts and you're trying to make a dismissible alert, it won't work unless you do have those scripts. Okay, so we covered a few different components here. Next up, more components and the grid.